Full name is Rick Ausby. I am the principal of Orange Glen Elementary School in Escondido Union School District.
All right.
And so I've dealt with families as a teacher and as an administrator since the war continues. As an assistant principal, the same thing in 3 different schools. We would have families who, not very far from Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton is in Oceanside, but we're maybe 14 miles outside of that, so we don't have as high an impact with families, but we do have several in our schools whose families had to either go away or we had new students who came suddenly. We've also had children whose parents did not return, and so that's always a challenge.
How has the organization that you're affiliated with addressed the needs of military children?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I came to this conference today, because we haven't systemically addressed it. Different schools do different things. At my site, we haven't had as much of an impact, but we have counselors on staff, but there is no training specifically for addressing the needs of military children at our site.
How have you, because clearly before this you've dealt with military children, how have you been able to find, are there resources that you found on your own to kind of help figure out how to deal with military children?
Not very many, because of the state of the budget, school budgets. We were laying off teachers, and as a result, counselors, librarians, and so we have one counselor at our site who's there for 2 days a week. And so whatever trauma or whatever students are going through, whether it's military or divorce, the counselor is seeing or trying to assist with all those groups. There's a divorce group, there's a deceased family member group, but the resources are very thin. And we were told we wouldn't have a counselor this year, but then a grant came through and we were able to have a counselor for 2 days a week. But nothing specific as far as addressing needs of military families that I know of.
Yeah. What do you think, so I guess, military children, there's changes throughout their lives.
Yes.
And how do you think we can make the school kind of be the constant? Kind of have one thing to rely on?
I think, one, there should be more focus on it. I've become more aware just being here the last couple of days of the great need. In the past, if a child had a problem, no matter what the problem, we just saw the child as having an issue that we needed to deal with. But now that I'm learning more about the focus of the impact of the war in many of the families, that I think we need a systemic approach, particularly at the school district, where we can align the resources. Since every school is doing something different, it would be good to have a training for all the principals, resources for all the principals in every site, and then a direct line where we can help the students and their families.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That would be nice.
That'd be awesome. What do you consider the top priorities in working with military-dependent children?
Well, mostly it's helping the children to not lose their academics, because at the school site, my #1 job is to make sure that they're learning. So if we could minimize the impact on the families so that the academic portion is not disrupted so much, which is always challenging because they're the emotional needs and the family moves. But whatever we can do to support them and that their learning continues and that they can go on and get a good elementary education, which will lead into higher education. So what we can do to support them in their education, I think, would be #1 job.
Yeah. How do you think public education has responded to the needs of military dependents?
Well, from our end right now, I would say not very well, and mainly because of the lack of resources that we have access to. We've increased classroom sizes. We've lost teachers, counselors, so everyone has been impacted by the budget, and we haven't addressed the needs very well, I think.
Yeah. Another thing that people have said throughout the interviews is trying to find a better way to locate and to know where the military children are and how many. Do you have an idea of what would be a good way to do that?
I know that on the emergency cards there's a section where families can check off, but I don't think much has been done to systematize exactly who the students are, where they are, which classrooms, when families are being deployed. So yes, it would be good for the schools to have a way to identify those students and direct resources their way.
And the last question.
Okay.
What do you or the other interns, or the interns and you yourself, hope to get from this workshop?
Well, my main reason for coming was because I heard there are resources now, because I didn't know of anything that existed before that was directly related to military families. So I'm hoping that the intern and I can figure out ways from this conference to utilize more resources and identify those students so we can help those families.